Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare. Hare Rama. Hare Rama. Rama Rama. Hare Hare. Thank you all for joining us this evening. Today we have a special guest, His Grace Chaitanya Charan Prabhu. He's quite a famous personality, but still for some of us who haven't met Prabhu for the first time, we'll just give a short introduction about Prabhu. So Prabhu is a monk, a brahmachari in the institution of ISKCON. He's also a mentor to many devotees and spiritual author. So Prabhu actually studied in Pune. He did electronics and telecommunications engineering. He was working in a multinational company, and then he saw all the problems in the material world, and he decided he wanted to be part of the solution. So he dedicated his life to the mission of propagating Krishna consciousness for the betterment of the world. So Prabhu travels all over the world, all over the globe, preaching his message of Krishna consciousness. So he's preached in many prestigious universities and many prestigious multinational companies like Google, Microsoft. And he's also an author of more than 25 books. And he's got a blog where he posts every day about Bhagavad Gita, and a website called The Spiritual Scientist, where he's answered hundreds of thousands of questions with people from all over the world. His articles have been published in many different newspapers, journals. So today we're very fortunate to have Prabhu's association. Please join me in welcoming him and chanting Hare Krishna Mama. Again, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Grace Chaitanya Charan Prabhu ki jai.
Om Jnana-timirandhasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Dinamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhutaivacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Lord, please guide us that we can understand your love and your mercy in our lives and reciprocate with it. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much for coming today. And I think many of you have been given a copy of my latest book. Who doesn't have a copy, then you can just be reading from that. I'll also be displaying it over here. This is basically a book of prayers inspired by the Bhagavad Gita. And in this book, I've taken the Gita's verses and seen how we can understand them as not just sources of inspiration or wisdom, but also as prayers through which we can seek Krishna's mercy and connect with him at a deeper and more personal level. So that is what we will try to discuss today. And we will connect this with the theme of the glory of the holy name, which is a broad topic. So if you have the book, can you go to page 22 in the book? Shloka number 1.14. You can. So in each of the key verses, there's a beautiful deity picture of Krishna, and there is a summary prayer, and then there is a poetic translation of the Gita verse followed by a one-page prayer. So if you like, you can repeat after me. My dear Lord, let me remember that my life story is a part of your story. So you can recite the verse. Tatah shvetairhayirukte mahati syandane sthitau Madhava Pandavaschaiva Divyau Shankau Pradadmatu. Let's do it one more time. This time let us try to recite it together. Not responsibly, but let's try to do it together. All of us together. Tatah shvetai yukte mahati sandane sthitau Madhava Pandavaschaiva Divyau Shankau Pradadmatu. Two more times. Let's do 3 times. Mahati Sandane Sthitau Madhava Pandavaschaiva Divyau Shankau Pradadmatu. Tatah shvetairhayirukte Mahati Sandane Sthitau Madhava Pandavaschaiva Divyau Shankau Pradadmatu. Then Krishna and Arjuna standing tall, on their chariot, white steeds and all, blew their conches loud and bright, a sound that shook the field with might. Bhagavad Gita 1.14. So I'll request participants to read one paragraph. Who would like to read the first paragraph? Yes, please.
My dear Lord, you are always with me in the chariot of this body, just as you are with Arjun on the battlefield.
Yes, thank you. So I'll be writing and drawing some things over here. Started the recording. Yes. So broadly, when we go through life, for us, most of the times, when we're going through life, the world is ahead of us, and there are some things which are done to us and some things are done by us. So sometimes people treat us well, sometimes people mistreat us. So things are done to us and things are done by us. Sometimes we may make a bad investment and lose our money. Sometimes we may neglect an important person. So what happens to us, that can be positive and that can be negative. And what is done by us, that can be positive and that can be negative. So in general, for most of us, we see life only in these terms. Okay, this person treated me like this and I did like this. I know it's important to consider that. But when we understand the Bhagavad Gita's message, when we connect with Krishna, when we practice bhakti, what actually happens is our worldview expands. Yeah, this is a reality, but this is not the complete reality. There is a bigger picture going on over here. So that is that the Gita's message, there is a timely message and there's a timeless message. The timely is what? And it was spoken at a particular time. So Krishna and Arjuna are on the battlefield, and there they are about to engage in a war. There's a timely aspect, but there is also a timeless aspect. Our body itself is like a chariot. The world is like a battlefield. And Krishna is present with us, within us as the Paramatma. And we as Atma are also there in the bodily chariot. So the Gita's message is both timely and timeless. Because the setting, the place where the message is being unfolded, is being revealed, also has a historical meaning and a trans-historical meaning. A meaning that goes beyond history. Just as Krishna was with Arjuna, so he is with us. Would you like to read the next paragraph?
Please, O Lord, let this beautiful, beatific vision of the human-divine partnership become the enduring image that resides and presides in my memory. Let this be the centerpiece of the story. I tell myself internally as my life story unfolds externally with its inevitable ups and downs.
Yes. So life is a set of events that happens to us. But it is not just a set of events. It's also how we see the events, how we experience the events. And that is largely based on a story that our mind is telling us. So many of you are here Indians. You come from India or from Indian descent. When you come here, we naturally become a part of a story. What is that story that, okay, we are immigrants to this country, and then we may be pursued by people in a particular way, some ways positively, some ways negatively. And then when we are at a particular place, and we are from a particular place, so that sets a particular story. Then people may say, oh, you Indians are like this. It may not be necessarily racist comments, but it's just that, oh, you Indian people are like this, or you may say, oh, these white people are like this. So what we try to do is that when events happen in our life, we try to make sense of those events. And how we make sense of those events? One of the key tools we use is that we have a story. So we may say the Indian success story, for example. Indians across the world are often respected as law-abiding, tax-paying, responsible citizens who contribute to the particular country. Now, sometimes some bad elements who may distort the story. But we make sense of life based on the kind of story we tell ourselves. So what the Gita does is that, yes, this is one story. That some things are done to us and some things are done by us. But above us is Krishna. And Krishna doesn't just exist above us. Krishna's controllership extends everywhere. So even in this world, so in one sense, Krishna is above the world, but Krishna is not just within the world is within Krishna. And therefore, whatever happens to us, it is God filtered. It is a part of a higher plan. And similarly, whatever is done by us, that is also a part of a higher plan. Now, that does not mean necessarily that everything that happens to us is what Krishna wanted to happen. We'll talk about karma shortly as we move forward. Sometimes bad people do bad things. It is not that God wanted them to do those things. Sometimes good people do bad things. So when good people do bad things, or bad people do bad things, it is not that Krishna wants them to do those things. But everybody has free will, and sometimes they may use their free will wrongly, and they may do bad things. But even when the bad things happen, it is not that we are thrown out of Krishna's plan. We are within Krishna's plan. Now, how is that possible? I'll take a few examples to illustrate this point. But this vision that there is a bigger plan. See, when we chant the holy names, when we come and worship Krishna, you may think, oh, this is just our culture and these are some practices we do in our culture. That's one way of looking at it. But actually, through this, we get an experience. We experience some calmness. We experience some safety because we are connected with a bigger reality. Now, we may not consciously realize this, but if we understand it, then okay, why do I feel so good when I do this kirtan or when I come to a temple? Because I'm connecting with a bigger reality. So essentially, what happens? Let's take two examples to illustrate this. If we consider a school, now the purpose of a school or university is, if you consider the university, the world is a university, but it's a university of adversity. What is adversity? Adversity is bad things happening to us. But it is a university of adversity. But through it, it's like in a school or university, can students fail? Students can fail. That's true. But now, does the school want students to fail? Now, the school's purpose is not that the students fail. The school's purpose is the students pass and graduate. Mhm. Now, interestingly, when the students fail, the school does not immediately reject the students. The school has a plan, even for the students who fail. Okay, you failed in one subject, you go to the next class, you just do the subject again. If you failed in many subjects, then maybe you better do the same level once. If you're repeatedly failing, maybe you may need to go to some other school, or maybe the children may have some difficulty, they may need some special aid, you can have some additional tuition classes, whatever. So, if you consider there is a plan and there is a purpose. Sometimes these two words are used in a similar way, but they're not exactly the same. The school's purpose is that everybody passes and graduates. But for those who don't pass or graduate, the school has a plan. The school's plan is not students fail. But even for those who fail, the school has a plan. The purpose is that the students pass. So similarly for us here in this world, there's a plan for students who fail. So in this world, bad things happen. The bad things are not Krishna's purpose, but the bad things are within Krishna's plan. That even through the bad things, Krishna will keep working. We'll talk about this a little bit more as we move forward. But let's move to the third paragraph now. Who would like to read?
The world outside and the mind inside tell me many stories. Stories in which sometimes I'm a winner and sometimes I'm a loser. These stories are always centered on either what is done to me or what is done by me. Both what is done to me and what is done by me are meant to be part of your magnificent and benevolent plan for my ultimate welfare and indeed for everyone's ultimate welfare.
Yes. So, Bhakti changes or expands the story that we are telling ourselves. So, another example for this could be the GPS. What is GPS? It is God's positioning system. Now, suppose we have a global positioning system, of course, but I'm using a different video. Suppose now I was coming here from the temple, and the GPS said turn right. And suppose I was driving and I turned left. What does the GPS do at that time?
Rerouting.
Yeah, GPS reroutes. Does the GPS say you disobeyed me? Get lost. Stay lost forever. You dare to disobey me? No, GPS doesn't do that. So Krishna is like the ultimate GPS. So when we make mistakes, now sometimes we may take a wrong turn, or sometimes somebody may mislead us. Go in the right, but then we are meant to go in the left. But either way, even when we take wrong turns, we can still be brought back on the right track. So we may be lost, but we are never lost to Krishna. We may be lost means, I don't know which turn I took, where I should be going. But GPS has the whole territory mapped out. And no matter how many wrong turns we may take, still there is a path back. Now that does not mean the wrong turns don't matter. They do matter. Because each wrong turn means we'll take that much more time, we'll have to spend that much more fuel. So the wrong turns matter. But the GPS metaphor, if we consider our mistakes, there are two extreme ways of looking at it. The one is to consider the mistakes are inconsequential. It doesn't make any difference. We take our mistakes very lightly. Oh, it's no big deal. Everything is God's plan. No. If a student doesn't study and fails in an exam, it is everything is God's plan. Well, you are not studying or not God's plan. So we cannot treat our mistakes lightly. But at the same time, no mistake is fatal. Right now, because you made this mistake is so bad that you are permanently. So if we understand this, what happens is two things. If you understand the mistakes are not inconsequential, they are consequential, we will be careful. We won't take lightly. But at the same time, when we understand that no mistake is fatal, that is how we will stay purposeful. You could say purposeful, hopeful, faithful, whatever word you want to use for it. That no mistake is fatal. Therefore, let me stay faithful. And if I have faith, then I must have some purpose. And I need to be doing something from my side. So let's try to understand this now in terms of the principle of karma. So karma is the idea that when we do actions, we get results for those actions. So now, how exactly does karma work, and how does we all understand the principle of karma to some extent. And if somebody is angry with me, then I try to evaluate, okay, did I do something to make this person angry? That's natural to evaluate that, and we should evaluate that. But beyond that, sometimes the person seems to be angry because of no reason at all. So this is because of sometimes what is called as delayed karma. Delayed karma means sometimes the same action result may not come immediately. Like some people, they have a lot of money, they spend money carelessly. But because they have a lot of money, they don't experience any shortage or poverty because of that. But once their money stock will run out, they will experience it. So good karma is like having good karma is like having a huge bank balance. So if you have a huge bank balance, then even if you are spending money, you don't feel the pinch. And bad karma is like having a huge debt. We don't spend anything and still we get problems. Like you go to supermarket and before you buy something, they say, hey, you have to pay $500. Why? I didn't buy anything. Oh, you bought a lot of things and you are debt over. Oh, now you will say, I'll not go to the supermarket only, but the debt will come to us. Okay, like that. So karma is like, when you talk about karma, there is positive karma and negative karma. So positive is like savings and negative is like debts. So we had debts from the past. So how does it work? If you have savings, that means even if I am spending, so normally the principle of karma would be what? If I do work worth 100, I should get result worth 100. But sometimes it may happen that I may do work worth, I may do work worth 100, but I get result worth only 10. That means sometimes I go to supermarket, I buy only worth, I buy product worth $10, but I'm getting a bill of $100. Why? Because there is a past which we have not paid. And sometimes we have a coupon from the past. We might pay worth $10 and we might get something worth 100. That's because 90 is coming from the past. Now, of course, things can become even more complicated. sometimes we may pay 100 and what we get is minus 900. Because from the past, minus 1000 is coming. So karma means, depending on how karma is, the actions we do, we do not get the same results immediately. The results can be disproportionate. But that doesn't mean they are arbitrary. To us, they may seem arbitrary. Now, financial transactions, if we consider, you may say, Jaise karni, vaise bharni. Whatever you did, you will have to pay for it. And there is some truth to that. But it's not the complete truth. With respect to karma. Karma works under Krishna. And what does karma works under Krishna mean? So, when we say that, even when we are getting some reactions for our past, and even when we are doing some actions. So remember I talked about how we think of life in terms of what is done to us and what is done by us. So what is done by us is present karma. Is our present karma what we are doing right now. And what is done to us is often the result of our past karma. Our present karma and our past karma. So another way to visualize this is that if we are going through a life journey, above us is, for each one of us, this is destiny. This is like our karma baggage. And from this destiny, we get a major installment at birth, some of which is positive, some of which is negative. And then after that, throughout life, we keep getting some installments. Sometimes something is positive, sometimes negative. That means positive means, we just get a very good job and our fortune changes. Sometimes we get involved in a business and everything collapses. So like that, there is positive and negative that keeps coming. Now this is destiny, but even destiny, above destiny is Krishna. So all of this works under Krishna. In the Mahabharata war, Duryodhana initially is very confident. In fact, the English word is cocksure. Cocksure means arrogantly confident. So I'm going to win. He says, I have more forces, I have more Akshamuni warriors, and I have better warriors. They are much, much more experienced. I have Bhishma and Drona. Bhishma, and he's confident of winning. But one after another, he starts losing his warriors. And then he asked Drona, he said, how is it that I am losing? And he tries to blame Drona. He says, you are not fighting wholeheartedly. That's why we are losing. Drona gets exasperated and he says, oh Prince, you can see on my body the wounds that I have sustained for your sake. What more do you think I can do? O King, endeavor alone is at our hands. But the results are determined by destiny. And the Lord of Destiny is on Arjuna's chariot. The Lord of Destiny is on Arjuna's chariot. So now, how does Krishna play a role in karma? That's what we'll try to discuss now. Okay. What does bhakti do? So I said Krishna is above the ego. Destiny is within, above Krishna. So what Krishna does is Krishna's role can be understood in two distinct ways. If we make it very simple now, that Krishna is above us. Krishna is above us, and from there we are going through life. There are some things that happen to us, and there are some things that happen through us. what happens to us and what happens through us. That means the choices that we make and the situations that come upon us. So we'll try to understand now how Krishna plays a role in both. So I'll talk about three things on this side, 3 R's, and here we'll talk about 3 G's over here. So let's try to understand this. And what happens, first of all, is that when we start practicing bhakti, that we become guided by Krishna. That means, as I said, many of the troubles that come in our life, they are because of our own choices. We sometimes make bad choices. And maybe somebody mistreats us, but then we hit back at them and we make things worse. So when we practice bhakti, Krishna says, I guide you. Dadami buddhi yogam. So by bhakti, we start understanding what actions are bad karma, what actions are good karma, how I should act, how I should not act. So we are guided by Krishna. And secondly, we are guarded by Krishna. Guarded means that just as we keep practicing bhakti, we start understanding more and more these actions lead me to trouble. And the actions that lead us to trouble, say, if we get angry, or we give into jealousy, we give into lust, we give into arrogance, and we often make small issues very big. But if we are guarded by Krishna, then what happens? We don't let these issues become very, we don't let these issues control us. I'll explain how this happens. But this is an important principle. When somebody gets angry, what actually is happening? Or when somebody becomes greedy, what is actually happening? When somebody is becoming lusty, what is actually happening? So, if you forget everything from this class, this one equation, if you remember, there is artha in our life and there is paramartha in our life. Artha means something that is of value for us, something that is important for us. So, for all of us, some things are important. But when an artha becomes a paramartha, when anything which is important, we make it into the most important thing. When artha becomes paramartha, that leads to anartha. What do I mean by that? For example, money is important. None of us can live without money. Can money make us happy? And only people who have money say that money can't make us happy. For somebody who doesn't have money, if they don't have enough money to eat food, money can definitely make you happy. If we are sick and we don't have money to buy a medicine which can relieve us of pain, so money is important. It is artha. But the problem is when it becomes the paramartha. When money becomes the most important thing in life. Money is artha, but when it becomes paramartha, then it leads to greed. So the idea is, similarly, all of us need a certain level of control in our life. For example, if I'm talking right now, the audience needs to be silent and attentive. Now, if a child small baby starts crying, that is disturbing. So now I need control. Maybe I politely tell the mother, please, if you can calm your child. If you cannot, maybe you can take the child outside some other room. But if I start screaming at the mother, screaming at the child or screaming at the mother, what will happen? No matter how good the class I give, at the end the audience will only remember how the speakers screamed at them. So now control is required, but when control becomes the most important thing, that leads to anger. We all need respect in life. Nobody likes to be disrespected. But when respect becomes the sole basis on which we act, then that leads to ego, that leads to arrogance. The male-female attraction is a natural principle in the world. That's what leads to reproduction. That's what leads to continuation of the species. But when that becomes the sole basis for decision making, then that leads to lust. So every artha has its value, but when the artha becomes the paramartha. So when money becomes the paramartha, it leads to greed. When respect becomes the paramartha, that leads to pride or arrogance, ego. When control becomes the paramartha, then that leads to anger. So, like this, all the anarthas arise from arthas. What is of value, we make it into the supreme value. And then that leads to disaster. So, what the practice of bhakti does, essentially, is that through the practice of bhakti, we are reminded, actually, yes, this thing is important, but this is not the most important. When we understand that Krishna is the Paramartha, the most important thing in my life is Krishna. Yes, I need wealth, I need respect, I need control, but that none of this is the Paramartha. The Paramartha is Krishna. Then when we keep that, and when Krishna actually becomes the Paramartha for us, then the other things don't control us so much. So we are guided and we are guarded. Guided means, at one sense, go in this direction. Guarded means, don't go in that direction. Now I'll add one more word over here. This is girded. Girded means strengthened. That sometimes we know what is right and know what is wrong, but still we are not able to do it. But if we start practicing bhakti, we find that in the past, say if we had anger, we'll be able to give up the anger. In the past, if we had some unhealthy habits, we'll be able to let go of the habits. Why? Because we get strengthened. So Krishna's role in expanding our vision. So when we are chanting the holy names, when we are remembering Krishna, when we are worshipping Krishna, by that dadami buddhi yogam tam, we get the intelligence, we get the wisdom, and by which we will start making, not only first of all, we'll understand what are good choices, we'll understand what are bad choices, and then we'll get the strength by which we'll make the good choices and avoid the bad choices. And the three R's are that with respect to our past karma that is coming to us. I talked about how we have something happening in our life, but there is a bigger plan happening. So three things can happen. Our past karma that happens, it can be reordered, it can be reduced, or it can be removed. Let's try to understand the difference between these two things. Reduced, reordered, reduced, and removed. So by past karma, I mean, remember I showed the diagram of we have a karma cloud hanging above us. And from that, something negative, something positive is going to happen to us. So when we start practicing bhakti, well, let's see what happens. What does Krishna do? If say, this is my life journey, and there is this karma cloud. Now suppose in our life, say some 3 bad things are going to happen to us, or 4 bad things. Each of these is negative. Let's assume right now, each of these is negative. Say we are going to get some very painful disease. We are going to lose our money. We are going to be betrayed by a close person. And we are going to meet with some accident. Now, each of these can be a very difficult thing to do. But if each of these comes after 10, 15 years, in a life of 70, 80 years, we can deal with it. But imagine if all 4 come at the same time. At the same time when we lose a loved one, or somebody betrays us, at the same time we get a disease, at the same time we lose money, at the same time we meet with an accident. Life could be completely different. So, in general, what Krishna can do is that our past karma may come to us, but Krishna can reorder it. Rather than multiple karmas hitting us at the same time, they can get distributed over time. And thus, the problems become relatively easier to deal. Now, of course, Krishna can also. So this is, if you consider alternative could be among these two. The other one could be that we are going through life, and then 4 different huge karmas hit us at the same time. this would be much, much more difficult to do. So our past karma can be reordered by Krishna. Now, beyond being reordered, Krishna can also reduce our past. Reduce means the same problem comes, but the problem does not does the intervention. So it's like, see, the purpose of karma at one level is just like a mechanical principle. Karma is mechanical means what? Say, if I throw an object down, the law of gravity will act. And if it's a glass object, it'll crack up. If it's a ball, I throw it down, it'll bounce up. So at one level, karma itself is simply mechanical. The action that we do, we get the results. It's not that simple because there are a lot of factors to be considered within karma. There is subtle factors involved. It's not just mass and velocity, something like that. But the point is that it is mechanical. But above the mechanical is the personal. The personal means karma is simply you did this, you get the result. But Krishna's purpose is not just to get us to suffer for whatever actions we do. Krishna's purpose is to reform us, to elevate us, to transform us. And therefore, what Krishna does is that it's like if somebody goes to jail, they might be sentenced to 10 years in jail, but if there is good behavior, they might be sentence might be reduced to 5 years, and even 2 years also. So, like that, Krishna can reduce the karma. So, Krishna's purpose is in law, there are two distinct terms. One is that there is retribution or retributive justice. Retribution means badla lena. That you did this, so I do this to you. That is more like punishment. But the other is restorative. Restorative means the point is not to punish. You did this much harm, so you have to punish this. But the point is to reform. The point is to change. So Krishna's purpose is not retributive. Krishna's purpose is distributive, is restorative. So Krishna can reduce the karma. Now, Krishna can not only reduce the karma, Krishna can also remove the karma. Now, I'll make one last point and then we can have question answers. So in this way, when we talk about Krishna's, how bhakti helps us. Sometimes we may hear some glories of the holy name. We say, okay, when you chant, when you just clap at kirtan, all the lines on your hand change, or all your past karma goes away. Now, this is all sweet to hear. It can be very encouraging and inspiring also to hear. But we wonder, how does it all work in my life actually? I still face problems. I still don't know when what problem will come upon me. So, this last point I'll make is that here in our life there are things we do and things that are done to us. So, what we do is our present karma. What is done to us or what happens to us is because of past karma. So now this part, what is done by us, this is a part of rational bhakti. Rational bhakti means that each one of us can actually experience how by the practice of bhakti, we can logically understand and practically experience how we become guided, how we become guarded, and how we become girded. Gird is like a girding or strengthening. How this is something which each one of us can practically experience and we can improve this ourselves. Now the other aspect that is more a part of what is done to us, that is a part of mystical bhakti. Mystical in the sense that it's not irrational, but it's something which we cannot know for sure how exactly it's going to happen. Say, for example, in our family, we have got a debt. Now, sometimes what happens is, at least in the past it was like that, nowadays it's not. In the past, somebody passes away and they have borrowed money from dozens and dozens of people. Now, when that person passes away, all those people who give money, they come and start asking for money. and there's no written record also, then it becomes very difficult. Or, 5 people come today, 10 people come day after tomorrow, and 15 people come after 5 years. I think, okay, how much debt I have to pay? It can feel overwhelming completely. So for us, similarly, the idea that how much past karma we have, we don't know that. And that's why if we focus only on, oh, bhakti will remove our past, it will remove, but what happens? No, even if 99% is removed and 1% remains, still the 1% can also seem too much for us because we don't know how much it is. So therefore, all this aspect of, as I said, reorder, reduce and remove. This does happen, but rather than focusing on this aspect, we focus more on the aspect of how bhakti can inspire us to make good choices. There are so many stories in the Bhagavatam. The Bhagavatam describes how if we hear Krishna Lila, one can be freed from all sinful activities or all sinful reactions. Now Parikshit Maharaj is hearing these stories. He is hearing so many of these stories from Shukdev Goswami, but never once does he ask this question. I have heard so many stories. Why have I not been freed from sinful reactions? Why do I still have to die? I have heard so many stories. At least, I have dozens and dozens of stories I have heard. So many leelas. When is my past karma going to get exhausted and I will be freed from this curse? He never asked that question. What does he do? As he hears about Krishna more and more, he becomes attracted to Krishna. So, the ultimate blessing of Krishna Bhakti is not just that our past karma is reordered or reduced or removed. The ultimate blessing of Krishna Bhakti is that we are guided, guarded, and girded. That is also good. But ultimately, what Bhakti does is, by the practice of Bhakti, we start realizing that Krishna is our Paramatma. Krishna is what matters most to us. This understanding comes by the steady practice of Bhakti. Or another way to depict this is, if we are going through a life journey, initially for us, the world is very big. And Krishna, even if he exists, he is quite small. Yeah, God is there, but okay, he's there. When I was introduced to Bhakti, about 30 years ago, I started talking about it with all my relatives and friends. And one of my uncles, he told me, yeah, God, I believe in God. I have a very good relationship with God. Okay, I had never seen him go to a temple or still talk anything spiritual. So I said, what do you mean good relationship? He said, our relationship is mutual non-interference. He's happy there, I am happy there. The problem is, I may be happy here right now, but Krishna will always be happy where he is. But our life has lots of ups and downs. So initially we feel Krishna is very small. But as we grow spiritually, what happens? The world becomes smaller and Krishna becomes bigger for us. So initially, the world is the Paramatma for us. Oh, getting money, getting position, getting power, this is the Paramatma for us. But as we grow spiritually, it is Krishna who becomes the Paramatma for us. And this is the ultimate blessing. So it is that we may chant, we may do bhakti. I mean, still there are so many problems in my life. Yes, that may be there. We don't know exactly how Krishna will act. But what we can know is by the practice of bhakti, as Krishna becomes the Paramatma for us, even if the problems come in our life, the problems won't disturb us so much. If the world is big, then what happens? The world's ups and downs also seem to become big. In fact, the world will have these ups and downs, but when the world is big, our mind can make these ups and downs even bigger. But the world becomes small, and the world's ups and downs also become small. In this way, the ultimate blessing of bhakti is that bhakti gives us shelter in Krishna. Not only does it help us to make good choices, but it helps us to minimize the effect of our past bad choices. But bhakti helps us become attracted to Krishna. And in that way, we all can ultimately be able to find the supreme satisfaction within him. Okay, let's read the last paragraph and then summarize. Who let me please? Let this remembrance. Please.
Let this remembrance of the merciful integration of my life story into your plan be the guiding and the guarding light for all my decisions. Let it be the guiding factor that pushes me forward even through difficult situations. Let it also be guiding factor that keeps me away from knee-jerk reactions that take me away from you.
Yes, the guiding and the guarding factor. We talked about this. Guiding us to make good decisions, guarding us against bad decisions. The last paragraph, exactly.
My dear Lord, bless me so that my life journey can always remain a harmonious part of your unfolding ultimate story.
Yes. We keep remembering that whatever is happening, there is some higher plan, there is some bigger reality. Therefore, we don't get so overwhelmed by life's ups and downs. You can summarize what I discussed today. Is this yellow clearer? Okay. So, we discussed broadly 3 main points today in that session. The first point was about our life story. Our life, or our story basically, our inner story, what we're telling ourselves. What bhakti does it? When we are godless, then the story is basically about what happened to me and what was done by me and what was done to me. And often we may feel that although both are positive and negative, we often remember the bad things that were done to us. We also may remember the bad things done by us, and we start feeling negative about it all. But what happens is, what bhakti tells us is there is our story that is there, what is happened to, what is done to us, what is done by us. But above us is Krishna. And everything that happens is within Krishna's jurisdiction. So what is done to us and what is done through us, both of these are God filtered. They are parts of Krishna's plan. And now how exactly are they parts of Krishna's plan? For that I discussed 2 examples, the school or university, the world is like a university of adversity. And in this university, Krishna's plan is not the same as his purpose. Now, the purpose, some students may follow the purpose, but the plan is there for everyone. Then the second example I discussed was of GPS. And in the GPS, we may make mistakes. We may take wrong turns. GPS is the God positioning system. So we can't say that they are inconsequential. They don't matter at all. But at the same time, they are not fatal. We understand that our mistakes matter, so we should be careful. But at the same time, no mistake is going to ruin us. So let us remain faithful and purposeful. That there is a higher plan which will work in my life. And in that way, we can have positivity in our life. And then how does this higher plan work with our lower plan? Or with not the higher plan work within what we are doing in our life? I discussed the principle of karma. How? Karma is that the actions that we do, we get proportionate results normally. But it's not just that much. It is like I may do 100 here and I may get 10 because minus 90 is coming from the past. And conversely, I may do 10 and I may get 100. So basically, our past karma also plays a role in determining the results. So what does this mean? That while karma itself is mechanical, that means it's just a law like gravity. You did this and you will get the result. But above karma is Krishna. Above it is Krishna, who is personal. And Krishna is personal, and Krishna's purpose is what? It is not just to punish. It is to reform. It's not retributive, but restorative. And then we discussed how Krishna's role happens in our life. that if we consider our life journey, within that, there are things that happen to us and there are things that happen through us. So, to us, what happens? And through us. So, what happens? So, for this, we discuss three things of Krishna. How bhakti helps us is we are guided, we are guarded, and then we are girded. Girded means we are strengthened so that we can make better choices. And this is a part of the rational bhakti, that we can all see this happening in our life and we can see positive transformation. With respect to this, we will be, Krishna can reorder, reduce, and remain. So in this way, each one of us, now this is a part of the mystical aspect of bhakti, because we don't know how much of the negative karma is there and how much remains. But through it all, the more we connect with Krishna and understand there's a bigger picture to life, then at one level, these two results of bhakti, the rational and the mystical, will experience. You could say A, B. But the ultimate result of bhakti is, we could put C over here, is that our conception of life changes. Initially, the world is very big for us and Krishna is small. But eventually, what happens for us is that the world becomes small and Krishna becomes big for us. And in that way, as Krishna becomes Paramartha, then the anarthas start decreasing and getting removed from our life. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Does anyone have any questions or comments?
It's regarding karma, and if you compare to the current like legal system, somebody does something in his charge and taken to court and he's told what he exactly did, and there's a witness to prove it, and the magistrate gives general punishment. But the karma, really, he doesn't know what he did. So something comes up, he says,
Correct, yeah.
so how do we deal with that? So it doesn't seem to be very fair, but he doesn't know.
Yeah. See, the problem of evil, as it is called, why bad things happen to good people, there is no satisfactory answer for it. Broadly speaking, there are only three choices. When bad things happen, as you said, to good people, there are three broad choices are there. One is that the whole universe operates by chance. And some people are lucky and some people are unlucky. And the universe is like a lottery. And if you got a bad lottery, that's you live with it. Now, nobody actually lives like that. Because we do see some cause-effect connection in daily life. That is that we train our children. If you don't brush your teeth will get spoiled. If you don't keep your room clean, it will come untidy. And we see actions do have results. The whole of science is based on that only. And the laws of motion is what their science principle. If you put this much force, this will happen to that. So that the universe is completely arbitrary. That is not a logical explanation. Now somebody will say, everything that is happening, God is doing it. That means, God is making this person wealthy, God is making this person poor. God is, when an accident happens, God made this person die and God let this person live. Then what happens is, basically, when there are bad things happening, there are two extremes we could put. Everything is arbitrary, or it is God who is discriminatory. Discriminatory means that God sometimes gives good things to some people and bad things to some people. Now, why does God do that? God is all powerful, you cannot ask him. Now, unfortunately, in some religions, like the Abrahamic religions, because they do not accept reincarnation, they cannot make sense of why bad things happen to good people. And if you're given the choice between a discriminatory God and arbitrary world, many people feel that arbitrary world is better. Because if God is discriminatory, imagine if there's a parent and the parent has 3 children. The parent is completely discriminatory in giving good things, punishing one child and rewarding another child. Then we are told you have to love that person. It is very difficult. So in between is the understanding that not arbitrary, not discriminatory, but reciprocatory. Reciprocatory means that we have done some actions either in this or previous lives and we get the results again. So this is not a satisfactory explanation. This is the least unsatisfactory explanation. There is no satisfactory explanation for why bad things happen to you. Among these 3 options, this is the least unsatisfactory. But now, having said that, there are some explanations that the karma is very complicated. And now we may say, why is it that every time you just do action, you get the result immediately? But it won't work like that, because certain actions, to be able to do those actions, we need some karma. We need some past karma to accumulate. So karma is like seed. Some seeds fructify after some time, some seeds fructify immediately. So that's why now every time something happens, see if I slip and fall, and immediately I get a flashback. Okay, in this lifetime you had pushed that person down, that's why you slipped in. Now, for every situation that happens in our life, if we start getting karma flashbacks of what happened, then we will be just caught in continuous perpetual flashbacks. We will not be able to function at all. So ultimately, the principle of karma is not so much of like a, see, karma is less like a law book. It is less like a law book and more like a compass. The point is not that there is one book where there are 1008 rules of karma given. Do this action, you get this reaction. Do this action, you get this reaction. The world is too complicated to be legislated like that. The point of karma is that we develop our own inner compass. By that compass, we learn to make better choices. So it is not so much that, so while it's a system of justice, but the point is that it is not so much that you did this and so you have to suffer this. The point is that we make choices and our choices, they do matter. So the principle of karma is not so much for judgment. You did this, so you have to suffer. There's one aspect to it, but it's much more of encouragement. Encouragement is what? That our actions matter even when they don't seem to matter. Like I am doing good right now, but I'm not getting any good results. Why is that? That does not mean that the good actions don't matter. It just means that because I'm going through some negative karma phase, so the good results are not coming. Like I am working and I'm earning money, but my bank balance is not increasing. Why is that? Because I had some debt, and because of that debt, whatever is going to the bank balance is used to offset that debt. But that does not mean that my present working is worthless. My present working is clearing that debt, and as I keep clearing the debt, then eventually it will reflect in my bank balance. Does that answer your question? Thank you. Any other questions before we start?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you very much for your wonderful class, Prabhuji. I wanted to ask, Lord Krishna knows the past, present, and future, but we also have free will. All of us have individual free will. So if we have individual free will, how can the Lord know the future? Because if the Lord knows the future, then everything is distant already. And so how does our free will come into that in relation to the Lord knowing the future?
Yes, there are some questions which I like to call them as philosophical banana peels. What happens when you step on a banana peel? You slip and fall. So like that, there are some questions you just get caught in them completely. So we have to be very careful. If you're going to, so I won't say that I have a definitive answer for this question. I have tried to read as much as I can. And I tried to talk to senior devotees. So the 3-level answer I have for this, but I won't say that any of these is necessarily a definitive answer. See, the first level of answer is that Krishna's knowledge of the future is like our knowledge of the past. What does it mean? Knowledge of future is like our knowledge of the past. Now, I may know I wanted to wake up at 4 o'clock today, but I woke up at 5. I know it, but I can't change it. Now, in the case of Krishna, Krishna can change it, but Krishna does not change it. So Krishna's knowledge of the future is information without intervention. That's one level of understanding. The second level of understanding is that we have choices and the choices have consequences. So this is where the GPS example comes in. See, Krishna knows which choice will lead to which consequence. It's like Google has got the whole earth mapped out. If you go here, if you take left, you'll go here. If you take right, you'll go here. If you go straight, you'll go here. So Krishna knows which choice will lead to which consequence. But so Krishna knows the future in that sense. But Krishna does not control our choices. Our choices are up to us. So Krishna is omniscient in the sense that he knows in future what kind of circumstances we'll encounter and what kind of options we will have. Now you could go further if you want to combine the first and the second. We can say Krishna knows based on our conditionings what choices we are likely to make. But it is more predictive, or the word like there is it is more like probability than probabilistic than predictive. Like in physics, there is classical physics, Newtonian laws, and then there is quantum physics. Quantum physics, you don't know exactly where a particle is. In Cartesian duality, in Newtonian physics, we know exactly where the particle is. So Krishna knows which choices which lead to which consequences. Krishna also knows which choices we are likely to make. And that's the second level understanding. The third level is that even if Krishna knows the future, knowledge is not as important as love. Like if you consider in the spiritual world, Krishna knows the leelas that are done. Krishna knows that Yashodamai will try to tie me, and then I try to catch me, and I'll run and run and run. Finally, she'll catch me, she'll try to tie me, she'll not will tie me, and then I let her tie me. So sometimes if you see, sometimes if somebody likes a movie very much, now you can say that's mundane example, but let's start with that. Some people love some movies or they like some particular scenes from some movies. Then they may watch those scenes again and again and again and again. They know what is going to happen, but in that case, the knowledge is not as important as the experience. Now you want to see, oh, how does this actor deliver this dialogue? What are the expressions on their face? How their voice cracks when there's some emotion. The experience is more important. So for Krishna, if we consider that what happens in the spiritual world is Leela. So Krishna knows what is going to happen. But for him, the important thing is not knowing. The important thing is not the knowing part. It is the experiencing part. So similarly, we could say, even if it were true that Krishna knows our future, but still, we may say that if we choose to love Krishna, then even if that choice were controlled, even if it's not controlled, but even if it were controlled, the point is Krishna will experience our love and he will experience his love. And we will be better situated. Our heart and life will be more enriched by that. So when we have this understanding, then the point of Krishna knowing is important. But more important than Krishna's omniscience. Omniscience is that he knows everything. more important that is Krishna's omnibenevolence. Benevolence means that he wants the good for everyone. It's 5.29, Surudam Sarvabhutanam. So Krishna can subordinate his knowledge for the reciprocation of love. So this is one important aspect of Krishna, that Krishna is not defined by his attributes. Krishna defines his attributes. That means, say, if somebody is 7 feet tall, then they are always stuck with 7 feet height. Somebody is 7 feet tall and they say, okay, I want to become a spy. It's going to be very difficult for them to be conspicuous. So Krishna is omniscient, but Krishna is not stuck with his omniscience. It is not that, oh, I am omniscient, so even if I don't want to know, I'll have to know. Krishna is not controlled by his qualities. Krishna is not controlled by his attributes. Krishna controls the attributes. So for Krishna, the most important thing is the reciprocation of love. And that's how he creates space for us to reciprocate love with him, even when he's omniscient. So that's how when we look at scripture, Vedaham Samditani, that verse is there. That I know past, present, and future. Many places like that. But there are many places in scripture which also say that therefore now you choose and you desire, do what you desire. If you do this, this will happen. If you do this, this will happen. Now Krishna is saying at the end of the day, now you do as you desire. So Krishna, so we cannot take one aspect from scripture or one teaching of scripture and absolutize it at the expense of other statements in scripture. So that we have free will is a scriptural teaching. That God is omniscient is also a scriptural teaching. So we need to be able to reconcile both of these. And this is called technically in Sanskrit as Arthapatti. Arthapatti is postulation. Postulation by which two seemingly contradictory statements are reconciled. Say suppose there's the example somebody given Devadatta, the character. Devadatta fasts throughout the day. And Devadatta's weight is increasing. Now, how are these two possible to be true? If both are true, that means we have to consider a third statement. The third statement is Devadatta eats secretly at night. So the idea is that God knows everything and we have free will. Both these statements are true. So how do we reconcile this? It means God knows but doesn't control the future. God knows the future in terms of choices and consequences. God knows the future, but he's concerned more about the experience of love. And therefore he, by Yoga Maya, conceals his knowledge of the future so that there can be reciprocation. Thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Bhakta ki jai. Gaur Preman.
Hari Hari Bol.
Jai.
So much of, I have this book with, can you show the second book also? This book's prayers inspired by Bhagavad Gita is actually, there are 122 prayers in this book. And there are prayers for all occasions, prayers when we feel lonely or misunderstood, prayers when we feel lost or directionless in life, prayers when we feel our bhakti becoming very dry. There's a very accessible table of contents right in the beginning. So there are also prayers when we feel as if our desires are becoming wild and temptations are becoming strong. So all these, there is many people that told me that you can, reading one prayer before chanting helps them to connect with Krishna better in the chanting and the sadhana also. So you can read a table of content, you can find whichever prayer suits your emotional need. And this is a book, Gita for the CEO. Like I was drawing some simple diagrams and conceptographics by which I was explaining how the Gita can be, Gita's concept can be understood. So basically, in today's world, there's a lot of interest in the corporate world to learn life lessons from ancient texts. From Japan, Ikigai is becoming popular. From Greece, Stoicism has become popular. So HarperCollins, one of the biggest publishers in the world, they wanted me to present the Gita in a similar way. So this is a national bestseller in India, and this is 10 principles on the Bhagavad Gita, like how we can manage our emotions better, how we can bounce back after failures, how we can speak in a way that is more effective and communicate with others in a more transformative way, how we can understand karma, and by understanding that, we can build trust in our relationships with others. So there are 10 principles on the Bhagavad Gita I explain in this book. It's not only for CEOs. Everybody is ultimately meant to be a CEO of their own life. But if you have friends or colleagues who are not able to connect with the Bhagavad Gita directly, then this is a good book to introduce for them. So both these books are available. If any of you want, I'll be here for some time to sign the books or to answer any further questions. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, everyone. I know you guys who are very enthusiastic about the book. Actually, Prabhu is going to Wellington tomorrow, 4 a.m, and he got these books shipped from Wellington to here. One of the devotees kindly brought it up, but we don't want to send any books back down to Wellington. So if you can kindly help and purchase all the books today, that will be very nice. The Gita for the CEO is $20, and the other one is $23, but they're two for $40. So please support Prabhuji and everything that he does by purchasing the books. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
How we can become
Yeah, we can transfer into a bank account. Yeah, I can give you the details. So, yeah, I can. But you can get it signed.
This much of what I spoke about karma is there in a chapter in this Gita for the CEO book. There's a chapter on accountability and karma. That's also there in the book, in case you want to read more.
So the blue one as well. The blue one. Yeah. Yeah, मैं लाखों yeah. Yeah, 2 for 40. Got another set. Another one of them. How long have you been connected?